A warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Natural Medicine. I'm so lucky that the head of the Swiss Mountain Clinic is with us again. A warm welcome, dear Miss Dr. Petra Wiechel.
Yes, thank you too.
So nice that you're back again. It's always great to know that Migros started with what used to be the Paracelsus Clinic and is now the Swiss Mountain Clinic. And that the holistic, natural, complementary medicine lives there. Just what we're trying to preach here is what is done there, and big respect.
Thank you.
And thank you again for your empathy that you're giving to our viewers. One can just feel at ease with you.
Thanks.
And I think this is the most important part of a doctor, the mutual trust from a patient to their doctor, that there is a relation. I think this is the first step to healing.
It is important, it is very important, but there are two other things. The first thing is that the patient wants it. That is required. A person that is not coming with the will to actively take charge, it will not happen, even with a lot of trust. And the last thing is that a doctor has to be able to make them keen to be healthy. Because if I am keen on being healthy again, I have to be responsible for it too. And if all three things come together, many things can happen.
Well, we can all see the vitality that you have, so I'm sure that is infectious in your clinic. May I know how much staff you have there?
We're about 45 staff. We have 25 beds. Or rooms. It's not correct. They are double rooms. And we usually have about 30-35 patients in-house. And it is like being on a cruise ship. A very warm, but intimate atmosphere, like a family. Nice.
I want to talk to you about the liver today. We hardly spoke about it up to now. But you mentioned it in the last episode, how sensitive the liver is, and that it is like a miracle to discharge so many symptoms of poisoning or environmental poisons from our body. So I'd like to ask you to explain the liver a bit better to us, and what we can do at home for our liver's health. And maybe, in the last step, what kind of diseases people have that come to you that can be cured through the liver, or the healing of the liver, or the regeneration of the liver. I'd love to hear that from you.
Sure. Well, the liver is an organ that we all know, and that is evaluated by common examinations with ultrasound or liver function tests. We judge the liver's health by checking that the liver values are normal, and we can see morphologically with an ultrasound what the liver tissue looks like. We can see if there's a problem with the bile duct, we can evaluate the gallbladder, and that's about it. We say that the beginning of a fatty liver is not good, but we don't judge it with a high pathology morbidity. The liver is an organ sitting here below the right rib cage and works for us 24 hours. I compare the liver to a mother. A mother works in the background, works without words. The liver is also mute. It doesn't have any nerve, feeds only the capsule. And the liver works with a dominance and speed that I wonder, I don't know if you can imagine it, how much blood the liver takes in one day. What do you think?
I think I've read the number before. I think it's 2,000 litres, isn't it?
Yes, it takes in 2,300 litres, and it is mainly active at night. Why at night? The human sleeps at night. So we have talked about this before, and try to understand that the body does not have an endless amount of energy available, but it decides by itself how the energy is used. And the liver needs this energy. all for itself. So it uses the time from midnight up to 3 a.m. to fulfill the tasks for the metabolism and the body. That means the liver is up here as the mother, and at least 500 body functions are dependent on the integrity of the liver capacity. So there is not a disease that has not been connected for a long time with a weakness in the liver capacity. Because any imbalance, temporary as part of the immune capacity, the supply of hormones, metabolism of protein, fat or carbohydrates, the storage of iron, the production of B vitamins, these functions are all dependent on the liver. And what I notice is that, for example, if the liver capacity is, the Germans have classified the best grade as 1, and the worst grade is 10, then I notice that a liver capacity of 1 is completely sound. Those people are full of energy, present, happy to take decisions. They are here. And people where the liver capacity is weakening, that is already 40% less than usual, but we still have good liver test results, the liver is by itself. And of course it will have to disregard some functions. And that is the point where I can see with 40 different symptoms, the weakening of the liver capacity is evident. And on the other hand, people that have diseases that also had a certain course of disease already should always start with relieving the liver. And I can also observe that many things are not necessary if the liver is back at full strength. Let me give you an example. A female patient, 42 years, 4 children, with the heaviest migraine, and not just once a month, but she had a migraine for 3/4 of the time. She had had a thyroid carcinoma, radiation, and now lives with that heavy migraine 20 days of the month. She only came for 1 week to detoxify the liver. We started something in that moment. We opened all the doors for her body. We created a relief, and I made a plan for her for the following 6 months, what she had to do at home. She returned a year later and thanked us for getting her life back. And if she has a headache once a week or once a month, there's a huge difference between headache and migraine. Then that would be much, and maybe because the children were loud during the day. So I just want to say, bringing stability back to the liver, relieving it, means also that it can produce enough digestion capacity. If I will develop dementia, it's always strongly connected to how my bowel works, and for this I need digestion capacity. The liver does not process the bile in the gallbladder, but in the 100,000 liver cells, and through 100,000 small bile ducts. This bile gets through the big bile duct that I can see in an ultrasound, not the 100,000 small ones, into the small intestine. But the bile is responsible for the peristalsis. I can't go to the toilet regularly if I don't have the peristalsis. How many people are constipated? That is the most important question. How regular is the digestion? And it is absolutely normal now, from 5 times a day to every 3 to 4 days. This is the tendency that people tell me. So there is a high pathology behind it. I can't just accept that. And I can't just, if it's every 3-4 days, take a laxative every day. There is more behind it. And this supply of digestion capacity is so important because the bile absorbs toxins in the bowel. That is hydrogen sulfide, that is ammonia. These are highly toxic substances that have to be discharged. The bile is also responsible, that small intestine, that decides what is being split. How is it split? It has a pH value that will only activate this at 8.5. If this pH value is not 8.5, the enzymes can't do that work, and the bile is responsible for that too. So it is so important that this drainage is working again. People who take antibiotics, who are taking diuretics to be able to go to the toilet, cardiovascular, all changes the bile's texture. There is one toxin which is the worst for the liver,
der Leber am schlimmsten wehtut.
And that is the emotion of rage. If I have rage, then there is a tension in my liver, and it will stagnate, so nothing is flowing anymore. And that might be possible for a moment, but it is not possible for a day, 3 days, 10 days, half a year, to live and act out frustration. These are things that will essentially weaken the liver in its capacity. On top of that, our liver has 2 big detoxification cascades that it has to serve. So phase 1 has to be completed. For phase 2, they are very precious transformation processes in the liver so that the kidney can discharge. If the liver is weakened there, if the liver does not have enough vitamin B12, not enough essential amino acids, that are the proteins that have to be added, not enough zinc, I can see a lack of zinc in 70% of our patients, the trace element, then the liver can't detoxify. If I have a genetic defect, if I am a slow, delayed, zero detoxifier, the liver can't detoxify. And what I've observed in many, many years, that a toxic contamination in humans, through the food, what is preserved, what is emulsified, what is contaminated, through medication, through food, I said that already, through glyphosate, grain, that is all contamination for the liver, where I observe that it takes it by itself, the mother, as if to say, I will keep this from you before I burden you, and stores these things in itself, and by that gets into a situation where it will not let us notice the stage of the illness. Maybe I can just not sleep well, or I can't go to the toilet regularly. But these are things that don't alarm people that much, that they feel they have to do something. And everything else, increasing blood pressure, increasing cardiovascular diseases, and so on. This is a tendency that wouldn't be possible if these things were different before. And that's why I find it so great when people come for this week of liver detoxification. And I don't want to praise it too much, but the liver is really our core. And I can just see how many processes restart and how much people take responsibility to do it. It's so nice to see when tumour patients that have recovered, I don't have to invite them. It became important to them that once a year they will re-establish the balance. And in that moment, it is not just doing good to the liver, but I'm activating a huge detoxification process. And this time is also used to question some things and then take specific action.
I didn't know how significant this is, and I don't hear it often here in the studio, that you have to start at the liver, your mother. This detoxification,
yes, at the liver, and the liver as an organ that is placed downstream of the bowel. I am the bowel therapist. It starts there. The bowel is the root of the plant, so to speak. It is so hidden, nobody notices it. And even so, the bowel is what is supplying all of our blood, and please, only with the best. But through these chronic inflammation processes of the bowel, we're speaking about leaky gut, the permeability of the intestinal mucosa. It starts to slowly tear. Silent inflammation, glyphosate, gluten, all these things cause a leaky gut in up to 85% of the population. So in that moment when this bunker, which is like the wall between the two German countries, it was unbreachable. And if this wall that accommodates our immune system and is 80% of our immunity becomes permeable, so this barrier between inside and outside becomes permeable. Then there is a huge transfer in one direction. That is hydrogen sulfide, that is ammonia, scatol, parasites, bacterial components, lipopolysaccharides, that it's a word that is maybe not that known yet in medicine.
It all goes into the blood, doesn't it?
It all goes into the blood, and who is the first one to get it?
Again, the liver.
This is so careless. That's why I can only be successful here, with the bowel, so colon hydrotherapy, a stool sample with which I can get 10 answers to 10 questions, and I can react, and then I'm in peace.
It's not reading the tea leaves, it's all facts.
Yes, of course, and we have to talk about it, and we have to bow our heads more humbly to what our body needs, unrestricted, to let us have the strength that we need for this life. And the task of our body's immune system is to protect us 24/7. And it can do this perfectly. We have proven this as humans because we're still here.
So you also think that if our bowel is sound, perfectly analysed with a stool analysis, there is no leaky gut. Our liver has impeccable detoxification capacity. Then the chance is quite small that any environmental contamination will weaken us or make us sick. But we have the best prevention we can have.
We always have to start with us, of course. And we all have different premises. It's just like that. So let's go back. We all have a different detoxification capacity. It can be fast, slow, delayed, or zero detoxifier. So if a zero detoxifier or delayed is in a family that gives a lot of medication, that has barbecues all the time, aluminium and so on, then they are more vulnerable than someone who controls these processes through a healthy lifestyle. Consciously less, sound, regular. Life is only vulnerable if it loses its regulation. And for this, I have already written to all health insurance companies in Switzerland to invite them and explain to them the benefits of a stool analysis in comparison to a colonoscopy.
It's not covered, the stool analysis.
No.
Impossible.
Yes, but with the colonoscopy, for 95% of the time you have the result. All good. Please come back in 3 years. Or there is a polyp. We cut it. Because it is precancerous, a preliminary stage. And then please come back in 1 year, not 2. As a physician, I judge it as precancerous, and then I leave the patient by themselves. And if I have a very sound mucosa, nothing can develop, neither a polyp nor a tumour. So, what had let this polyp be developed to store something? The polyp makes sense. Our body doesn't make mistakes. We should never question it. And that is the point where I think with a stool analysis I can judge this immunity, I can recognise inflammation. I can understand the activity of the pancreas. It's dramatic if the pancreas also produces too few enzymes and so on. So I have 10 answers to 10 questions and can build a system now from the lowest point to establish a condition in which it regenerates. And with that, the process of detoxification is very strong and essential. Look, it starts already with someone saying they never drink more than half a litre of water. That's enough. This is, of course, a problem of the liver. The liver sets our thirst, and I can't guarantee the discharging process of the kidney. If water is being treated so carelessly in my body.
I know someone who always just drinks 1 glass of water a day, and their iron values, the ferritin value, is 4, so almost nothing.
Yes.
Is there a connection between a non-functioning liver and low iron values?
Yes, of course.
Do they need to detoxify?
Well, between low iron values and anemia, there is a lot of parasitical contamination.
And the last question, you said at the beginning of this episode, the liver works between midnight and 3 a.m. Is that fixed? And for the people who only go to bed at 2 or 3, is the timing different?
No, this is the organic clock that tells us the main timings of the different organs when they work. And that is unalterable.
So if I'm going to a club until 3 a.m,
absolutely not compliant with life.
It's the law.
And that's why nobody talks about it anymore, the goodness of sleep, how precious sleeping is, and the most precious sleep is before midnight. So if I always have this feeling, I can't sleep, I'm waking up, I can't fall asleep, that is something that can be noticed after such a week that sleeping works better, because the liver has to return the toxicity back into the system if there is no capacity. And then I'm sitting in bed and can't find peace. Sleep hygiene is something that is terribly neglected. And all the melatonin synthesis with the epiphysis fluoride at the epiphysis calcifies it and weakens the melatonin synthesis. These are all big processes. Also sleeping in darkness, not being in the focus of light all the time. I need darkness for these processes. Being unencumbered and having this peace. I can surrender, I can sleep, all is well. And the liver plays a big role there.
I know so many young people that don't go to bed before midnight, and these 3 hours of the liver, as you said, they are so important. And the work can't be done. It's like a lifestyle disease of young people.
And we shouldn't underestimate. Young people eat so many carbohydrates, pizza and so on. Eating carbohydrates in the evening means needing a lot of insulin. The counter-regulatory hormone of insulin is somatropin that decreases with high insulin. And this is our growth hormone. So all these tendencies to so-called wear marks, anthrosis and what's it called, which can now be noticed much earlier in young people, is essentially connected to that.
I want to thank you so much for this. Let's call it lecture. I learned so much today.
Great.
You can see it from a different light, and I'm so proud and happy that we can give it to you, dear viewers. All this knowledge of the Swiss Mountain Clinic, and we can see the importance of the bowel and the liver. And this wonderful phrase, our mother looks after us, does the job. It's pure genius from you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For this lecture. All the best, dear viewers. Look after your bowel and your liver, your mother. and see you next time.